On May 14, 2025, President Trump announced the lifting of sanctions on Syria. This unexpected declaration, made during a visit to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, sent shockwaves through the international community. For over a decade, Syria had been subjected to crippling sanctions due to its brutal civil war and human rights abuses. The decision came after a meeting between Trump and Syria's interim president, Ahmed al-Sharaa. Al-Sharaa, a former al-Qaeda commander who disavowed the group in 2016, assumed leadership after a controversial election. The international community, wary of al-Sharaa's past and concerned about the legitimacy of his election, now had to grapple with this unexpected turn of events. The lifting of sanctions represents a gamble on Trump's part. A gamble that he believes will ultimately benefit American interests. The situation in Syria remains complex and volatile, and the lifting of sanctions could have unforeseen and far-reaching implications for the region and beyond. In his address, President Trump justified the lifting of sanctions as a necessary step to provide Syria with a fresh start. He argued that the sanctions, while intended to pressure the Syrian government, had primarily hurt ordinary citizens. Trump emphasized the need to prioritize economic recovery and humanitarian assistance for the Syrian people, who have endured years of devastating conflict. Trump also framed the decision as part of a broader strategy to normalize relations with Syria. Critics argue that lifting sanctions without addressing human rights abuses and political repression is likely to be counterproductive. They fear it could embolden the Syrian government and undermine efforts to achieve a lasting and just peace in the country. The lifting of sanctions has also raised concerns about the potential for corruption and the misuse of funds. With billions of dollars in frozen assets set to be released, there are worries that some of this money could end up in the wrong hands. The decision to lift sanctions on Syria cannot be understood without acknowledging the crucial roles played by Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Both countries, regional powers with significant interests in Syria, have been instrumental in brokering this deal. Saudi Arabia, a staunch opponent of the Syrian government during the civil war, has seemingly softened its stance. The kingdom sees an opportunity to counter Iranian influence in Syria and the region. By investing heavily in Syria's reconstruction, Saudi Arabia aims to gain leverage and reshape the political landscape to its advantage. Turkey, grappling with a massive refugee crisis, sees the lifting of sanctions as a way to facilitate the return of Syrian refugees and stabilize its own southern border. While both countries have publicly supported Trump's decision, the long-term implications of their involvement remain uncertain. Their competing interests could potentially lead to further instability in Syria, complicating the already fragile situation. Section 4. Economic implications, a boon for some, a concern for others. The lifting of sanctions is expected to have significant economic ramifications, both for Syria and the countries involved in the deal. For Syria, it opens up opportunities for foreign investment and economic recovery. The energy sector in particular is expected to attract significant interest, with its vast oil and gas reserves now accessible to international companies. Saudi Arabia has already pledged billions of dollars in investments aiming to secure a foothold in Syria's reconstruction. Other countries, including Qatar, are expected to follow suit, eager to capitalize on the emerging economic opportunities. However, this sudden influx of investment raises concerns about transparency and accountability. There are fears that corruption could plague the reconstruction process, further enriching the Syrian elite while leaving ordinary citizens behind. The lack of a clear legal framework for foreign investment also raises questions about potential exploitation and the long-term sustainability of these economic ventures. Section 5. Humanitarian and security concerns, a shadow over Syria's future. While the lifting of sanctions offers a glimmer of hope for economic recovery, it is crucial to acknowledge the immense humanitarian and security challenges that continue to plague Syria. Years of brutal conflict have left the country in ruins, with millions displaced and basic infrastructure decimated. Addressing the ongoing humanitarian crisis must be a top priority. This includes providing essential aid, rebuilding infrastructure, and creating conditions for the safe and voluntary return of refugees. However, the security situation in Syria remains volatile. The presence of various armed groups, including remnants of ISIS and other extremist organizations, poses a significant threat. The potential for renewed conflict and instability cannot be ignored. Section 6. Global reactions, a mixture of hope and apprehension. The international community has reacted to Trump's announcement with a mixture of cautious optimism and deep concern. Israel, a key U.S. ally in the region, has expressed strong opposition to the lifting of sanctions. They view the Syrian government as a threat to their security and are wary of al-Shabaab's past ties to terrorist groups. Saudi Arabia and Turkey, on the other hand, have welcomed the move, seeing it as an opportunity to advance their respective interests in the region. Within the United States, the decision has sparked a heated debate. While some have praised Trump for taking a bold step towards peace, others have condemned the move as reckless and short-sighted. The lifting of sanctions on Syria represents a significant gamble with potentially far-reaching consequences. Section 7. A new chapter in U.S. foreign policy. The decision to lift sanctions on Syria marks a significant departure from previous U.S. policy in the region. It reflects a shift in priorities, with a greater emphasis on economic interests and a willingness to engage with actors previously considered adversaries. This move has the potential to reshape the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. It could lead to a realignment of alliances, with the U.S. potentially finding itself on the same side as Russia and Iran in supporting the Syrian government. However, this new approach carries significant risks. The situation in Syria remains complex and unpredictable, and the lifting of sanctions could have unforeseen and unintended consequences. The potential for renewed conflict, human rights abuses, and regional instability cannot be ignored. The lifting of sanctions on Syria marks a new chapter in U.S. foreign policy, one that is likely to have profound and lasting consequences for the region and beyond.